So when I was selecting the menu for today, obviously with you in mind and you know, pub food and Irish food, I decided that I would do Irish loin of bacon and red currant sauce. I'm going to do a steak sandwich and the Irish beef and Guinness casserole, which was already referred to a couple of times during the morning because it is very much something that you would associate with Irish food. So I'm starting off with the loin of bacon. And I just have the uncooked one here beside me, and it is literally the loin. It's you know, it's like what we get the back rashers from. Sometimes there's a longer piece of streaky attached to it here, but this would be the loin of Irish bacon. And when you're buying it, obviously you can buy a much larger piece than this. This is about 2 kilos, so you'd buy whatever size you would require. And this is very good. You can actually cut it into bacon chops if you like, and bacon chops are very nice and something you mightn't really think of cooking. But it's a good thing to cook and serve it maybe with mash with apple through it or with mustard through it. And it's just an idea maybe to use. You parboil the bacon first of all, and then you cook it on the pan. Now what I did here with this bacon, you just find out from your suppliers whether or not it needs to be steeped. Traditionally we would always steep bacon because many years ago when the bacon was actually cured in the salt, it was much more salty and therefore you had to remove some of the salt. But nowadays bacon wouldn't be quite as salty as it was. But however, it's up to yourselves as to whether you advise your chefs to steep it or not. So I've cooked mine, and I'll just hand you that Donncha. Donncha works here in the Galway Bay Hotel, and he's assisting me. And I have to say, just congratulations and thank you to all the staff here. They've been absolutely fantastic this morning. So this piece I have cooked. I cooked it in water with some mustard and some onion and some vegetables, just to make the water nice and flavoursome. And when you are cooking the bacon, it's like anything that you're boiling. If you're boiling ham or corned beef or bacon or whatever, simmer it. Don't boil it, because when you boil it, it toughens more. So the meat needs to be very gentle. Same thing with the casserole. Just barely have the liquid moving in it, and then you will get the very best results. It's going to take quite a while. It will cook the other way if you boil it, but it will be, you know, the boiling action will cook the outside of the meat first of all, and it won't actually allow the steam to get into the centre to make it nice and tender. So I removed this from the liquid in which it was cooked some time ago, and then I'm going to finish it off. I have to say this is one of our most popular recipes. We've been doing this for years, and we've got a lot more recipes, of course, but this is always very, very popular. There's very good cutting on it, so I'm just putting some nice Irish mustard on this as well. This is the Lakeshore mustard, which comes in Guinness flavour and honey flavour and various flavours. So this bacon now is already cooked, so we'll just put that on that there, and then I'm going to put some sugar on top of it. Now I also have some of the liquid that the bacon was cooked in. I have that around the bacon, and I'm going to put this in the oven just to finish it off and to make it nice and crispy. Now you can do whatever topping you like, but this is a very simple topping. You could arrange it with honey, you could put some orange juice in it, you can do the traditional cloves, of course, and pineapple and so on. We find that this one is nice. I'm going to return this to the oven for approximately 20 minutes, and then after the 20 minutes I will strain off the juice and mix it with some port and some red currant jelly and boil it down, and you've got a lovely sauce. So I'll just pop this into the oven here for approximately 20 minutes or so. And you know, that is really nice served hot. Of course you can do stir-fried cabbage with it if you want to make it really traditional. Stir-fry the cabbage with a little bit of onion and put some butter, maybe some cream into it. Or of course you can do your mashed potatoes champ. I'm actually cooking champ today. So you can do nice potato cakes either. All these recipes are actually on our website, and they're very good. So if any of you want to ask me any questions, please feel free to do so. I hope you're all hungry. And when I came, I was here last night at 8 o'clock, and you were just going in to meet the mayor. And Hazel very kindly invited me in, and decided I better not, and I think perhaps I made the right decision, because I think a lot of you were out late last night, and I had to work. So I heard anyway. However, next thing I want to move on to is the Irish beef and Guinness casserole. You have the recipes, haven't you? So we'll just get our ingredients for that here. And again, I've most of them prepared. Casserole dish here somewhere. Here we are, thanks. I have one of these cooked for tasting anyway. But, so I won't really delay too long doing this because you're all well able to do it yourself. But I would just say to you, when you are selecting your meat for the casserole, always go for the what we would call the lesser cuts, the cheaper cuts for casserole, because if you use say you use the round steak or the silver side, that has other uses and it tends to be a little bit dry in a casserole. A casserole is going to be nicer if you use part of the shoulder, what we would call the chuck steak or the rib steak, because there is more connective tissue in this, and when connective tissue is cooked properly, it's converted into gelatin so that you get really nice moist meat. If you use, you can certainly use round steak if you so wish, but it will tends to be drier. Round steak is very good. You can actually stir fry it on the side because it's the most tender muscle in the animal. But of course, obviously, we're using quality Irish meat here. So there will be a little bit of marbling through it, but not very much. And you want to trim as much fat as possible from the meat, because in a casserole, it's not very pleasant when you get a little piece of fat. It's different if you're having steak or roast or something. So what I'm doing here is I have already browned off some of the meat here. And what we're doing, this can be cooked in slices. You can get a nice piece from the shoulder, which actually is very similar. There's a cut in the shoulder which is exactly like the fillet of beef. And if you can get your suppliers to give you that cut, you can cut it into slices and you can braise your meat like that, and then you serve it in a slice, or else you can cube it up the way I have done here. And I'll brown this on the pan. And as I say, I already have some of it browned. And I'm cooking it with some onions and some leeks and some celery. Now, when it's cooked, you remove the onions and the leeks and the celery. You strain it all off and remove them. And that's why I just have them cut into large pieces here so that they're easily accessible. And I just brown the meat on the pan. And just as a matter of interest, I'm using, you can use olive oil or you can use sunflower oil, it's very good, but I'm using rapeseed oil, which is from Donegal, and it's a lovely golden oil. You would use it the same way as you would use olive oil. It's lovely in dressings, and it's becoming quite popular now. I don't know if many of you are familiar with Donegal, but there's a huge big field on the way to Montana, and it's full of this rapeseed. It's absolutely fantastic to look at. It's yellow, and it's beautiful as you're driving through it. You know, it's really a sight to behold. And they are harvesting that, and you've got the rapeseed with it. So when this is nice and brown, you just make sure that it's good and brown, because this helps to give it more flavour, and it caramelizes the meat. And it's good just to give it that time, otherwise you're not going to get the good flavour out of it. So we brown it well, and then add it to the casserole dish. It's down there beside you. It's quite hot, so be careful. Add it to the casserole dish, and then into that I'm adding some stock and some Guinness. So we'll add the Guinness to this as well. Now, I'm adding the stock, but you could actually use Guinness. You don't have to use stock if you don't want to. If you wanted to have a stronger flavour, use Guinness completely. And I'm sure that Diageo won't mind. So we'll put in plenty of pepper. They won't object to it. Plenty of pepper and a little bit of salt. Use a nice sea salt, Maldon sea salt we use all the time. The salt has a very interesting flavour. The salt can be sort of kind of sweet in its own way, and nutritionally we're not supposed to use too much salt anyway, but I don't know really if that's your concern or not. But the sea salt does give a really nice flavour, and you don't use as much of it. You can always add a little bit of salt afterwards if necessary, but you do need a certain amount, otherwise you won't get the really nice flavours. So we just leave that and allow that to simmer for approximately an hour and a half, or else you can cook it in the oven. I mean, if you're doing large quantities of it, you would probably cook it in the oven for approximately an hour and a half. I'm going to just give you that there, Donica. Would you mind taking that away? And it's quite hot, so be careful. And after the hour and a half, what you do after the hour and a half, you can just pop it down there, thanks. so I'm not using that again. We fry off some bacon and some mushrooms and some onions. It's a little bit like a bourguignon or coq au vin, where you add the mushrooms and the onions and the bacon at the very, very end. So I have already done that just simply to spare time. You can use nice wild Irish mushrooms if you can access them. And, sorry, this is just too hot here. I want to turn it down. The same principle applies to the casserole about cooking it very, very slowly, really slowly. Otherwise it's going to be tough. I'm turning down the wrong plate here. So I have my bacon, my mushrooms, and my onions added to that towards the end. Add lots and lots of mushrooms. And then you can thicken it with a little bit of kneaded butter, which would be equal quantities of butter and flour, just combined together, and stir it into the boiling liquid. Don't stir it into cold liquid, make sure the liquid is boiling so that the flour will actually cook. And when you introduce it to the boiling liquid and you stir it around, the flour bursts and it absorbs the liquid, and that actually thickens the liquid. It's a brilliant way of cooking, it's a brilliant way of thickening anything. So just equal quantities of butter and sugar. Sometimes it's, butter and flour rather. Sometimes it's known as beurre manier. Now, the potato I'm serving that with then, thank you. This too is cooked. Nothing like being prepared. Nice Irish potatoes, which I boiled inside there and just mashed them. And into that I have added some butter and some milk, and it's champ. So champ would have kale in it. At this time of the year particularly, kale would be very available. It's in October. It's something associated very much with Halloween. But so I'm using scallions, ordinary spring onions. So we'll add the spring onions to this as well. This is a real Irish dish. So I'm just reheating these. We'll add some salt and some black pepper. And as I say, I have some butter here as well. I use Connacht Gold butter because I live in Sligo, and Connacht Gold would be our local dairy, and they are fantastic supporters of local events and things, so I use it wherever I go. But Connacht Gold or Avonmore, any of those Irish butters are lovely. It's really hard to beat Irish butter. Last week, I was on holidays, I was in Portugal last week. And you know, it's really when you go away and you see what's available, the butter just isn't as nice, it doesn't have the same content that ours does, that ours has. So we just mix all this together, and you serve this, and when you're serving it, you can serve it in individual portions in a nice deep white bowl, you know, a nice deep soup bowl if you wish, or you can serve it, don't have a proper spoon here, I'm serving just in these black dishes, and you can have more sauce in this if you so wish. It's entirely up to yourselves. It's really flavoursome. So there we have our beef and Guinness casserole. And that would encourage anybody to have it with a pint of Guinness. Just put a little bit of parsley on top of it. And potato. The potato isn't quite warm enough yet, but whatever. I'll just put a little bit into this now, and I'll heat up the rest of it because you'll be tasting this afterwards if you wish. Add a little bit there. Or if you wanted to add it with some nice soda bread, and to serve it with some nice Irish soda bread, you could as well. So I think that, I think that's just a nice way to serve it in individual portions if somebody comes in and they just want a portion of it. So we leave that over there as well. Thank you very much. Veronica, we got it? Thanks. So I'll take that from here. That's warm. Now, I have some soda bread here. I was going to make it, but I don't think I will make it because you're probably I'll make it if you want me to make it, but you probably all know how to make it anyway. But this is Doreen Allen's recipe, which is very, very straightforward. And we have 450 grams of, you have the recipe there, 450 grams of white flour, a teaspoonful of salt. Now do put in a teaspoonful of salt because it requires that to give it good flavour. And a teaspoon of bread soda. Now with white soda bread, make sure it's a level teaspoon. Brown soda bread, you put in more than a level. But white soda bread, if you put in more than a level teaspoon into white soda bread, it turns brown and it has a very salty flavour. But you do need a level teaspoon, so you literally get your teaspoon, level it off with a knife, and that's a level teaspoon. And then sieve the whole lot together and mix it around with your buttermilk. If you cannot get buttermilk, use a combination of plain yogurt and milk. And that's a very, very good substitute. So just, or you could use creme fraiche or sour cream, but plain yogurt and milk combined together will do the job, because you need the acid and the alkali to sort of combine together so that the bread will actually rise. This bread, I was to make it this morning, but I wasn't sure what facilities I would have, so I made this yesterday before I left. Now, soda bread is much nicer eaten the day it's cooked. But what I did this morning, about an hour ago, I just dampened it and I put it into the oven inside in the kitchen to try and freshen it up again. But this is gorgeous if it's toasted. It'd be lovely served with a piece of bacon, or it would be lovely served with the casserole, or with some of the Irish cheese that I'm going to show you later on. Really, really nice served with that. If you want to sort of keep it traditional, obviously it's the traditional Irish style, because that's what we're talking about. And of course our nice Irish butter. So I'll just put that over there as well, Donna, and everybody can help themselves. Thank you. So the steak sandwich is what I'm going to prepare next. Let's turn up the oven here, turn up the plate. You know, we have some lovely food in Ireland. I work a lot with the senior students in secondary schools throughout the country, and it's part of their programme is that they learn about the Irish speciality food industry. So we do a nutrition presentation, and we also do a presentation to them, showing them what is produced locally in their own areas. And it's not for them, they don't have to go out and buy it, needless to say, but it's really just to alert them to what actually is available. And perhaps some of them might be very interested in starting off something themselves. And I always encourage them to go to the local farmers markets and see what actually is available. And I've cooked 3 dishes, and they taste the dishes, and it's brilliant for the students because they're able to taste things perhaps that they wouldn't have tasted before. And the one thing I'm always afraid of with students is that they think because they're learning it in school that they don't have to think about it outside of school. But I think it's a good learning experience for them to understand what quality is about, and for them to taste some of these flavours, you know. And we get very, very good feedback from these presentations. And as I often say to them, they may well be they will be the business people of the future. And it's good for them to sort of get a start on understanding quality, and it's a good opportunity for them to see that that it is important to, you know, to ask where their food comes from, because I think it is just vital that our young people start to ask where food comes from. Otherwise, as I always say, especially when they're girls, you know, you'll know what you're putting on your face if it's makeup or something. So feel the same way about food. And one of the speakers earlier on mentioned that it is so important to know the quality of the food and to know where your food comes from. So the steak sandwich is very much a popular dish. And what I have here, I have 2 strip loin steaks, which would be from, obviously, the loin. Now, what is very popular would be the ribeye steaks. The ribeye steaks would be, it's literally the eye of the rib, particularly the rib, the wing rib coming down towards the sirloin. It is more tender. It's lovely and tender, and it's more tender than the rib sort of coming from the shoulder. It would have a certain amount of fat through it, which does actually make it more flavoursome, because if there is a little bit of fat in the meat, it does make it more flavoursome. So when you are selecting your Irish beef, make sure that it's good dark colour, and that there would be a little bit of marbling through it. Now, you don't want too much fat through it, but a little bit of marbling through it. That will ensure that it's going to have some flavour. And I've just put a little bit of marinade on this. You can use some rapeseed oil or olive oil and balsamic vinegar. It's gorgeous with balsamic vinegar. I have some thyme today. I haven't used the balsamic vinegar today. I try to sort of keep it as Irish as possible. And so I have some thyme and some garlic. And I just marinated it this morning. Don't marinate it for too long. Overnight is okay, but if you marinate, especially with vinegar on it, if you marinate it for too long, it breaks it down completely. And then some black pepper and some salt. Now, do not add the salt to it until you're cooking it. When you add salt to any marinade, it draws the juices out. Even if you're marinating, a large quantity of food, it will actually draw the juices out. So we'll just add a little bit of the salt to the meat here. And I'm heating up the ridged pan, and I have the oil on the meat. So I don't know whether it's hot enough yet. Yeah. And we'll allow that to, if you turn it too soon, it'll stick to the pan. So we'll just allow that to caramelise completely. And I worked with Neville McGuire on a couple of occasions, and he gave me a great, any of you who've ever seen him work will probably have seen this before. Can you hear me okay over this? I move out here. He has given me a great indicator on how you know whether meat is cooked to the degree of doneness that you require. And he said if you hold your thumb and your forefinger together and you do that, that's rare. The feeling you get there, that means that the muscle is rare. This is rare to medium. This is medium to well done. And this is well done. So if you do it yourself, you can actually feel the muscle, the texture of the muscle changing. And just so that you know, you don't see chefs going along and they feel the meat, and they know by the feel of the meat the degree of doneness. Now, failing that, of course, you can use a thermometer. But it's just a good idea. Right, so when that's cooking there, I just prepare the. We have some ciabatta, which I've already lit with oil, and I cooked it on the ridged pan here. And then we'll add the meat to it, and some herb butter, just butter with lemon juice and some chopped herbs added to it. If you want to add chilli to it, you could, but again, I thought it might be so Irish with the chilies in it, but however, chilies might encourage a thirst. Chili butter is actually lovely with it, but however, that's the herb butter which I would add to the meat when it's cooked. And I'm also going to just assemble some salsa. I just think we should also be very mindful of vegetables, and just because we're having the steak sandwich, but we should also remember to have our vegetables with it as well. And it does add to the dish, it gives the interest to the dish. So I have some Irish tomatoes, which are lovely and sweet, and some red onion, a little bit of lime juice, and a little bit of oil. And we'll add some coriander somewhere, but I'm not sure where it is. Just combine all these together and serve this as well. This can be served with any of the dishes which we're cooking today. When you're serving tomatoes, you might need to put a little bit of sugar in them as well. That helps to give them a lot of flavour, and sugar in basil is lovely. Sometimes you just require a little bit of sugar. And allow that to cook through. Now what you can do, if you're cooking these in great quantity, just brown them and finish them off in the oven. It's a very nice way to cook the meat, and just put the whole thing into the oven, and it actually cooks more easily if you cook it in the oven. And obviously if you're in a situation where you're cooking maybe a quantity of these, it would be more practical for you maybe to finish them off in the oven. So I'll put some of the tomato salsa onto this as well. And I leave the rest of the dish there like that. Thank you. So I'll allow those to complete their cooking there. I have a wee bit of dressing here too. There are some very good Irish dressings on the market at the moment with balsamic vinegar, honey and olive oil. This one I just made myself. And thank you. So, I'm going to put that there. I'm going to have a look now and see how my bacon is doing. Put that over there as well, please. Thanks. Now, what I'm going to do in this, I have the red currant jelly. Sorry, no, that's the bacon. Yes?
Just a question. Everybody cooks with water in every cuisine in the world, right? So cooking is the same. And I love this theatre of food. I pulled my first pint of Guinness about 1960, and the 6-pint pour is the theatre of serving Guinness. A steak sandwich in former times was called a bookmaker sandwich, which the bookmaker went to the local hotel, got a sirloin steak in a Vienna roll, wrapped it up in foil and took it to the meeting. So we sell a bookmaker sandwich as a steak sandwich, but it makes more authenticity to it as an original dish.
Yeah. And do people, when you flag it as a bookmaker sandwich, people talk about it?
It makes it interesting. A steak sandwich is a steak sandwich.
Yes.
I explain the history of the bookmaker sandwich.
Yes.
So it makes it more authentic.
Right.
But it's only a simple name, you know?
Yes, that's interesting now. So there's a bit of information for you. So better come up with something else for this as well. Juice from the bacon. And we just stir all this around until it thickens up. It's very hot now. Very hot. So you just allow that to simmer away until it's nice and thick. And then I'll put this onto. And while we're waiting for the steak to complete its cooking, I'm going to bring over some nice Irish cheese. Now we have some red currants here. We've got this red currant jelly that we had in the sauce. And we'll add some red currants to the sauce as well. And sorry, now I'm going to put the butter on top of the steak now while it's still on the pan and allow it to melt. Now, I just want to find my carving knife. It's amazing how things disappear up here. I just can't put my hand on it now at the moment. We got it. No, I don't know where it is, not to worry. The Irish cheese, I just want to talk you through some of the Irish cheese. Seamus Sheridan is outside. I'm sure many of you spoke to him at the break, and he will fill you in completely on the Irish cheese. We have some beautiful cheese in Ireland. Is there another one as well? It must be beside me. We have some lovely award-winning cheeses in Ireland, and one of the reasons for this is because of our weather. Our muggy, wet weather means that we have very good lush grass, as a result of which the milk yields are very good, and a lot of farmers go into cheese making to supplement their income. So I asked Sheridan's to bring along a few samples of Irish cheese, and we do have quite a reputation abroad for our cheese. And this is something I always bring along to schools as well, because I just think Irish cheese is gorgeous. We have Cashel cheese, of course, which is known throughout the world, and this has been made down in Cashel, County Tipperary, since 1984, I think. And this is gorgeous, even just to put on a burger, beautiful on a burger. just fizz it around with a little bit of port, and it makes a lovely sauce. This then is the Santola goat's cheese, the log here. I don't know how well you can see them on the stand here, but you can taste them after here. And I have some Ballymaloe relish as well to serve with it. This is a lovely Durras cheese, which is from County Cork. And it's a semi-soft cheese, not particularly strong. This one here is gorgeous. This is a hard cheese, and you could use this cheese instead of a Parmesan. It's Mount Callan cheese from Ennis in County Clare. You could use this if you were making a pesto. You know, if you didn't want to use Parmesan, if you wanted to keep everything absolutely Irish. It's a good, hard kind of cheddar cheese, and it's a really nice cheese with a drink.